Well, I'm going live on my laptop. I know the quality isn't as good as my phone, um, but I just want to use my laptop because I've got a couple of bits on my phone that I want to be able to get up kind of as and when I need them. So I'll just leave it a minute or so and see if anyone's going to join. If you do join us, just say hello, give us a wave, let us know you're here. Right, so um, if you've read the post, I've got a few things that I want to talk specifically about when it comes to insecurities. I've actually made some notes because I've got so many thoughts and ideas running through my mind. I want to make sure that I actually say what I really want to say. So there's five specific things that I'm going to be talking about. Um, Towards the end, I will kind of give you some um, maybe like some tips or solutions as to how to deal with insecurities. And then, as I said before, I'm going to kind of leave it open for a Q&A. I do already have one question asked, which I'll answer if no one else has asked the question. But I'll give it another 15, 20 seconds and then we'll get into it. Right, I think we'll get into it. Anyone else that watches will obviously just be watching the replay and can catch up there. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about insecurities and specifically insecurities in relationship, well, yeah, and this feels funny to me because if someone would have said to me 6 or 7 years ago, probably even 3 or 4 years ago, that I will be doing a Facebook Live in my Facebook group talking about insecurities from an empowered place, I would have fucking laughed them off. Like, I'll give you some examples. So, if you've followed anything to do with kind of my journey and just how I kind of arrived at where I am, then you'll know some of this, and you'll know that I've struggled with self confidence and kind of low self esteem, and all the things that most people kind of struggle with. But um, I've also worked really hard over the last few years to make sure that things like lack of self worth and insecurities essentially don't consume my life and don't ruin relationships, because my insecurities and my lack of self confidence definitely ruined a relationship in the past. So I mean, there's numerous examples that I could give you, but the reason why I want to give you these examples is to kind of and I'm sure you know this, but there might be an element, and maybe I'm projecting here, but there might be an element of you thinking, are you saying you don't have insecurities then, are you? That's not what I'm saying at all. And these are some examples of the insecurities that I did have and how they consumed my life. And I'll also talk about the insecurities that I do currently still have. And it's basically just about being able to, you know, voice our, you know, our struggles and our concerns and the things that we're actively working on to become essentially better human beings. So there were, I mean, a few things that are coming to mind, but one specifically was me and my first girlfriend were out in a club, and I was probably 25 maybe, um, and I saw her talking to another lad, and instantly I felt this. You know that feeling of like when your blood is boiling and you feel the rage starting to like surge through your body. And I was so insecure that I ended up going up to him, and I won't tell you what I said, but I basically embarrassed myself. And I done that because I felt insecure. I mean, there are some other examples. That there's another one which is still kind of a little embarrassing to admit to, but someone that I was seeing posted a picture. It was just a selfie, and in my opinion, not Dan that I am now, but the Dan that I was then, in his opinion, she was showing too much cleavage, and she got loads of likes from, you know, different lads, and that made me feel really insecure. So, in my mind, the only way to deal with that was to have an argument with her and tell her why it was wrong posting a picture like that, and letting her know that, you know, surely she knew what she was doing posting a picture like that, and, you know, what kind of a girl posts a picture like that? And I'm embarrassed to kind of admit that, and even really kind of reflect on some of the language and some of my own stuff that I just projected onto people that were just living their lives. And I think the truth is, the only reason why we, you know, for instance, for me, the only reason why I felt the need to kind of control that situation when I was feeling insecure was because I felt out of control internally. I I didn't know how to manage how I was feeling inside. So because I didn't know how I was feeling inside, I tried to control the outside. I tried to control her. I tried to control the lad that she was speaking to. I tried to control everything I could externally because my internal world was fucking massively out of control. And that will always be a recipe for disaster. Every single time you try and control the external because the internal feels out of control, you lose instantly. You cannot control the external. Now, we can talk about boundaries and stuff here, but I'm going to leave that further towards the end because they do come into play here. But I want to first of all just make you aware of the fact that we all feel insecure at times. You know, I felt insecure, you know, when my girlfriend at the time was speaking to that lad in the club. I felt insecure when someone that I was seeing posted a selfie and lads liked it. You know, and what we can tend to do when we become aware of our insecurities is we can almost start looking at our insecurities as something we need to get rid of. Like, how do I get rid of my insecurities? Well, this is something that I want to talk about now. So, what are insecurities? Insecurities essentially are us not feeling secure in ourselves. So when we don't feel secure in ourselves, you could also say you feel unstable. And when we feel unstable or we don't feel secure in who we are, the only remedy to that is to look inward rather than trying to kind of gain like that feeling of security and that feeling of stability in the external world, you know, through our relationships, trying to control our partners and, you know, trying to, you know, essentially what we're trying to do is trying to create this kind of bubble to keep ourselves safe, but it's not coming from a place of it's not coming from a healthy place. And when we're feeling, you know, kind of out of control, and you know we've got all these emotions kind of flooding through our bodies, and we don't really know what to do, and you know, everything's like all crazy in our mind. You know, our mind's racing, and when we feel like that, what we actually need to do is turn our attention inward, and you know, really start to ask ourselves, like, what is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And really start to get curious about what's going on inside. So this is why I believe, and I think if you see your insecurities in this way, it really will help you, because it's massively helped me. Your insecurities are there for you. So if you look at, say for instance, your partner likes someone else's picture, for instance. I'm sure every one of us can relate to that scenario at some point in our lives. If your partner likes, you know, another girl's, or you know, another lad's selfie, and you instantly feel insecure. Now, that insecurity is working for you because it's showing you a part of yourself that feels unworthy. Let me explain. So when your partner likes someone else's selfie and you instantly feel insecure, the reason you feel insecure is because you believe that that person whose selfie they've liked has more to offer your partner than you do. So in other words, you actually don't know your worth. You're undervaluing yourself. So that insecurity is showing you that you need to improve your self-worth. It's the way I see it, and I've used this analogy multiple times, but it really, really has helped me. So anything that feels kind of you know, like an insecurity, or like anxiety inducing, or is a fear of mine, or whatever it is, I always address that insecurity, for instance, as little Dan. And I put my childhood face on that scenario, that insecurity, that situation. And the reason why I do that is because it enables me to stop judging myself harshly, which is kind of like my default. I will jump to being kind of highly critical. But by doing that, it allows me to really get curious and, really ask myself, like, what do I need? And putting my childhood face on that insecurity allows me to look at that insecurity through the eyes of love and compassion, instead of kind of like being highly critical and almost kind of like punishing myself for feeling the way that I feel. And when we can actually get curious about our insecurities, instead of projecting our insecurities onto our partners and, making our insecurities their problem, and, having this huge blow up and, like what I done, oh, we fucking, you done this, and, really going at them for the way I feel. When we can take responsibility for our emotions and exactly how we're feeling in every single moment, we feel empowered. Because every single time that we try to control our partner and tell them what they can and can't do, and say, you're not going to be speaking to this person anymore, I don't want you posting selfies like that anymore, I don't want you liking this person's pictures, I don't want you speaking to that person, whatever form of control we try and put on our partners, all that does is firstly create resentment. They actually resent us for it. And I'm speaking from experience because they told me they resented me for it. And more importantly, it actually just creates disconnection. It creates even further disconnection from our partner, and it creates even further disconnection from ourselves, because that insecurity is being brought to the surface so we can look inward and fulfill that need that insecurity is telling us that we need, that we haven't been given to ourselves. And when we start giving it to ourselves, instantly we start to feel better. And not just kind of, oh yeah, I feel a bit better, but, we feel more secure. We feel more stable in ourselves. And I liken it to building a foundation. So all of our triggers and all of our insecurities, when they come to the surface, what they're essentially telling us is our foundations are weak. And I won't use too many kind of building analogies because I have no clue. But I'll use it in simple terms because I need to. So, when all these insecurities and stuff come to the surface, they're actually telling us our foundations are weak. And what we need to do is essentially like lay another brick down and make the foundations more stable. And by looking inward and getting curious and, really understanding what it is that we need to give ourselves, essentially we are laying that brick down. So that's why insecurities are actually for us. And when we can get into that mindset of this is coming up for me and it's not there as something that I need to get rid of, and it's not something that is coming up that I need to, make my partner do something to make me feel better. Will always be a losing battle. The only way to win is to look inward and really make our foundations a lot more stable. So I think I kind of touched on you don't need to get rid of your insecurities, but I will just go into this a little deeper. So as I said, our insecurities are there for us, and what happens is as an insecurity kind of comes to the surface and we get curious and really start looking at, why do I feel insecure about this? Like, what is it trying to teach me? What do I need to do for me? And, you know, once we've got to the kind of root of that, and we actually start giving ourselves exactly what we need, the need to get rid of that insecurity will just naturally fall away. And what you'll actually find, that insecurity will also begin to fall away. And this is an analogy that my coach uses, and I absolutely love it. She doesn't use it in the context of insecurities, but I think it works perfectly, so I want to use it for that. So, oh fuck, I probably should have got an elastic band for this, but imagine there's an elastic band around my hand. So what tends to happen is, so this is us. Oh, the other way around. This is going to confuse me. So this is you right now, and this is your insecurities. All of them together. I know it's kind of hard to try and imagine, but try and imagine it that way. So this is you, this is your insecurities, every single one of them. And what tends to happen is when you become more self-aware and start getting curious about why you feel a certain way and start taking responsibility for the way you're feeling instead of projecting it and expecting your partner to make you feel better and controlling them, what tends to happen is your comfort zone kind of stretches. So your insecurities are out here. There's kind of like wiggle room. You feel relief. And then, you know, something will come up. One of your insecurities will come up, and you'll get curious and, you know, go into that insecurity and, you know, figure out what that insecurity is telling you that you need to do for you. Then your comfort zone will stretch again, and the things that were making you insecure, you know, when your insecurities were here, will no longer be making you feel insecure here. But you've still got insecurities. It just means that it takes something. I don't really want to use this language or this word because it's very kind of it's quite harsh and kind of black and white, but it takes something bigger to trigger your insecurities. So, for instance, maybe when you're here, your partner just liking someone else's selfie will trigger this insecurity and will make you feel out of control. It also might mean that here, someone, you might open up your relationship and, you know, kind of give your consent to your partner dating other people, and that might make you start to feel insecure here. Now you can see how there's a big stretch, but what happens if you try and run before you can walk? You'll end up like, you know, telling yourself, yeah, I'm okay with that, I'm okay with that, when really you're not. And what will happen is you'll come flying back and everything will just come crumbling down, and essentially you will be in a dark night of the soul will occur at that moment, because you've tried to stretch yourself too far. And I I always talk about getting out of our comfort zones because essentially our comfort zones aren't actually comfortable. And every single time that we kind of just get in our little bubble and, you know, just live life through our comfort zone, it's a slippery slope. And it's also dangerous because you're not going to go through life with your bubble intact. You know, that bubble will be penetrated and will burst at some point. So if you can be the one in control and you can be the one stepping out of your comfort zone to a level that feels just uncomfortable enough for you, so you can learn the lessons that you need to learn in that moment and then grow, and then your comfort zone will stretch, and you'll find that, you know, in 6 months' time, in a year's time, the things that you were insecure about no longer make you feel insecure. But that obviously doesn't mean that you don't have insecurities, because it just means that it will take something kind of, I'll use it again, it will take something bigger to trigger those insecurities. I hope all of this is making sense. Just let me know. Let me know if I'm kind of rambling on and you're finding it hard to kind of take it in. Right, so this is a big one. How to stop feeling anxious in your relationship. Now, that's kind of a little bit deceiving, because you will never stop feeling anxious in your relationship. But I wanted to talk about the ways in which you can relieve the anxiety that you maybe feel day to day, or maybe not even day to day, but at times. And you know that your insecurities make you feel anxious, and that anxiety does cause your relationship to, maybe not suffer is the right word, but not be what you want it to be. So, and this is something that I'm still working really hard at, and I'm so much better than what I used to be. I still have a lot of room for improvement. But it's basically, when you're feeling like anxious about anything that is making you feel anxious, you get to own that anxious feeling. And, you know, again, you get to be curious about why you feel anxious and where that anxiety is coming from. And if it is an insecurity related to, you know, something that your partner has done that has triggered that insecurity. Notice I didn't say they made you feel insecure, because no one can make you feel anything. Those feelings are already there. It's just that person might have brought them to the surface, so they didn't make you feel it. Anyway, I just wanted to drop that in there, because that's another way to feel empowered rather than feel like you're powerless. So, yeah, when you're feeling anxious about something in your relationship, again, obviously get curious about that anxiety, but aside from that, speak to your partner. And I know that sounds very simple, but putting it into practice is a whole different ballgame. Because I know, especially for me as a man, like, showing any sign of weakness is absolutely terrifying. Because as a man, a lot of our identity has been kind of put on us, and we're kind of told that, you know, we need to be strong, we can't show any weakness, we can't express any emotions, and I've also had it in the past when, you know, I have tried to express emotions, and it may not have been in the best way, but was in a way that probably was the only way I knew how to, and it wasn't received very well, which all that done was push me further back into, well, fuck that, you know, up come the walls, I'm not letting anyone in again. And actually, if we can start looking at ourselves and not identifying with our insecurities, so say for instance, you feel insecure about something, and you know, and then you start to tell yourself, I'm an anxious person, I have anxiety. Like, you're not an anxious person, you don't have anxiety, like, there's just anxiety there. You're experiencing some form of anxiety. And what that does, when we can separate ourselves from our emotions, we can view our emotions as separate to ourselves. And when we create that space from our emotions and ourselves, we can look, you know, we can look in on the version of us that is experiencing that emotion and that insecurity, and we can look through the eyes of love and compassion and really see exactly what that version of us who is experiencing that emotion, what that version of us actually needs in the moment. And when we can start doing that and create that distance from ourselves and our emotions, and start separating ourselves from our emotions, because you are not your emotions, like, you are infinite, you are your pure consciousness, I won't go too deep into that rabbit hole, but you're not your emotions. So separation is needed. And when you create that separation, you instantly feel like relief. You like, and literally your shoulders will start to drop because you think, ah, like, and it feels so much less heavy. Like, you will feel lighter. You will feel like you have some control back, because you do. And from that place, you can actually start to open up a conversation with your partner about whatever it is that you're experiencing. So you could just say to your partner, and again, this is something that I've been practicing for a long time, so, and I'm definitely not perfect at it, I'm still learning, but something that really helped me was opening up a conversation and saying, I feel, and then finish that sentence. Not, you made me feel, because again, no one can make you feel anything. And when you start a sentence with I feel, instantly the person on the receiving end of that start of the conversation, they don't need to put up any defences. They're open. They're ready to receive whatever you're going to bring to them. So I feel, so it could look something like this. I feel a little insecure when you like so and so's selfies. And then from there, they can obviously have their say. Again, they shouldn't be triggered. If they are, they are. There's nothing you can do about that. Apart from, obviously, don't get defensive and triggered, because then it will just end up like that and nothing will get resolved. But if you can stay kind of calm and stable and secure in who you are, and by this point you will already feel a little more secure in who you are, because you've already been, you know, you've already been starting to get curious about, you know, why you feel a certain way, and you know, what message is this trying to give me. So by, you know, just opening up that conversation, what that does is actually it it says to your partner, I am struggling with this. Please, can we work on this together? This isn't a you made me feel insecure, and this isn't my partner's so insecure. This is a, you know, both taking responsibility and both seeing it as something. You know, you're both here. That thing's in the middle, and you know you work together to come closer and closer to reconnect again, rather than, you know, you made me feel this way. Yeah, but you done X, Y, and Z, and then you just get further and further apart. And all that does is leave you feeling even more anxious, even more frustrated and resentful, and doesn't actually give you what you wanted, which is to feel relief and to kind of get some resolve with that insecurity that come up. So, you know, communicating is absolutely vital, but unfortunately, you know, growing up, most of us weren't taught how to communicate, you know, indirectly through our parents. I think it's fair to say that, you know, most of our parents probably weren't doing this kind of deep internal work, and were maybe quite unconscious. So we picked up indirectly how to communicate, which is actually probably how not to communicate. But also going through school, like we weren't taught how to communicate. Yeah, we were taught, you know, our alphabet and, you know, how to spell and how to read and write, but we weren't taught how to communicate, and we also weren't taught how to listen. And these are two vital things to give us, you know, the thing that every human being needs, and that's connection. Like, if we can't listen and we can't communicate, we can't connect. You might be able to connect yourself. In fact, no, you won't, because you won't even be able to communicate and listen to what you need from yourself. So, no, there'll just be no connection. So, yeah, that really is the best way to help you stop feeling anxious and, you know, really kind of alleviate some of that that strain and, you know, that pressure that you're under day to day, because, you know, you feel insecure. And if you can just start to own those insecurities and go to your partner through kind of open, honest, empowered, self-responsibility dialogue, then it's a massive start to connecting again with yourself and your partner on a much deeper level. So, creating inner peace. Now, I've spoke a lot about this, really, like in, you know, the first four kind of things that I've been speaking about. So what insecurities are, why they're there for us, you know, you don't need to get rid of them, how to stop feeling anxious in your relationship. And creating inner peace really is about taking responsibility. Taking responsibility for how you're feeling. And, you know, I don't, when I say taking responsibility, I don't mean, you know, when you feel insecure, telling yourself, oh, fuck's sake, I feel insecure, and then beating yourself up because you feel insecure. That isn't taking responsibility. That's taking the blame. You're actually blaming yourself. So the difference between blame and responsibility. Blame, and this is probably one of the easiest but the best ways to explain the difference. So, the difference between blame and responsibility. Blame leaves you feeling like a victim. So you'll know when you're blaming yourself or not, because you will feel victimized by yourself. And then responsibility leaves you feeling empowered. So blame, self-victimization. Responsibility, self-empowerment. That's the difference. So, and if you take anything away from this live tonight, at least take that, because when you're aware of the fact that you're blaming yourself, you can consciously choose a different thought and start choosing thoughts that feel more empowered, so you don't keep going down this spiral of kind of self-blame and self-hatred and self-loathing, and that really is a slippery slope. So creating inner peace really is about taking responsibility and being responsible for exactly how we feel. So that means when you're responsible for something, it means that you look after it. So you look after you and everything that you bring to the table. So your emotions, your thoughts, anything and everything that envelopes you, you're responsible for. And as soon as you really start to take responsibility for you, you feel so much more in control, because you're not relying on anything externally. You're not kind of giving someone something and saying, hey, can you do this for me because this will make me feel better. But essentially what you're doing is figuring out what you need for you to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel loved, and you're giving it to yourself. And that, if you can continue to do that and continuously practice self-responsibility, you will create more and more inner peace. It really is as simple as that. So there's this is the 3 C's, actually 4, but I hope that these 3 really do help you, and I hope that you can kind of remember these when it comes to anything that you're struggling with, really. So the first C is curiosity. So, you know, like I've been talking about, when you feel insecure about something, or you're struggling with something internally, or, you know, whatever it is, you're going through something, get curious about it. You know, really ask yourself, like, what is this trying to teach me? Like, what does this mean about me? And how can I use this to become a more secure person, and, you know, feel more inner peace, and be more loving to myself, and be kinder and more compassionate to myself. And, you know, really getting curious and just asking why all the time. Why? And that's the first C. The second C is clarity. So you've gone through the curiosity stage. You know, you've asked why, you know, what does this mean? Why, you know, why? You know, continuously asking yourself why, until you've got to the root of what it actually means. the next C, the second C, is clarity. So you're clear on exactly what that trigger, that insecurity, that insecurity or whatever it is, what the message of that insecurity is. You're clear about it. And then the third C, which is kind of two C's, but the first part is communication. So you got curious about it, you now have the clarity about what it actually is and why you feel that way, and you know what the root of that was, and now it's time to communicate. And that can be communicate with yourself, and I like to do this through journaling. So I will write down, like, I'm feeling whatever way, I need X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do that by, and then finish writing. And this just enables me to get really clear on what it is I need to gift myself, and it kind of holds me accountable as well. So yeah, communicate. I did say that this is kind of two C's because through the communication phase is when you actually create connection. When you communicate to yourself what you need and take action and start meeting that need, you start to reconnect yourself. The same as when you, like I mentioned, when you have that conversation with your partner and you communicate, you know, why you're feeling insecure and, you know, what you could do together to kind of work through that insecurity and make you feel a little better, and you know you've had that conversation and you've communicated that, you also start to reconnect, or maybe not reconnect, but you begin to connect even deeper to your partner. So you actually feel more loved, and this is what we all want as humans. Like, I believe we're all here to love and to feel loved. And I'm not going to go too deep into this. It may be for another video, but I believe all we actually are is love. It's just we forget that. So we kind of we try and we remember that we're love through the love that other people give us, which then enables us to give love. So again, it's infinite, and we're infinite. We are love. Like, you can't kill love. But like I said, I won't go too deep into that. So those are the three C's, and I know they will massively help. If you can take anything away, like, take those two things: self-blame and self-responsibility, and the difference between the two, and the three C's. So curiosity, clarity, and communication. Now, I've been on here for just over 45 minutes. I did mention that there will be a Q&A. Obviously, no one's commented, and it doesn't look like you have any questions that you want to ask, or maybe you do, but maybe you're a little nervous to ask. But I do have a question. Right. So the question is, how do I deal with having really bad insecurities with my relationship? I've been to a therapist, but it didn't seem to work. There's a few things that I could unpack there, and without knowing any more kind of context, and I'll relate it to these, actually. So, how do I deal with having really bad insecurities? When you use the terminology, I have bad insecurities, Do you think that's self-blame, or do you think that's self-responsibility? Self-blame. And from that place, when you're blaming yourself, you're you'll want to shift that blame. You'll want to get rid of it. You'll want to get rid of those bad insecurities, which you can't do. Obviously, I mentioned. So instead of asking the question, how do I deal with having really bad insecurities with my relationship? Maybe ask the question, why do I feel insecure in my relationship? And when you can ask yourself that question, the answer that you will get won't feel as heavy, and it's a much more empowering question to ask, because then you'll be able to actually, if not come up with a solution, you will be able to take the next step forward. Whereas if you ask the question that you asked, how do I deal with having really bad insecurities with my relationship, you'll stay stuck where you are asking that sort of question. So it's a reframe of the question that you ask. Firstly, ask yourself, why do I have insecurities in my relationship? And then get curious about that. And where you've ended it and you've said, but it didn't seem to work, that it sounds like you're under the belief that, let me think about this. So what's actually going on here is you're hugely critical of yourself. You believe that you're broken, and you believe you need fixing. Because when you say something doesn't work, essentially it's broken, and you're not, just like you're not a car. Like you don't need fixing. It's, insecurities will always be there. You will always feel insecure about something. Our insecurities will always be triggered by different things, and the point of therapy or counselling or coaching isn't to fix you, because you're not broken. You don't need fixing. It's to help you. It's to help you understand, and this is why I say that this work is never over. Like you don't do some work on yourself and then you're magically fixed, and you've got all this armor on, and nothing can get through, nothing triggers you, nothing makes you feel insecure, nothing nothing bothers you day to day, because we're always going through different moments in time, and we're having different experiences, and different situations are playing out, and different interactions, and we're always being bombarded with new stuff, just everyday stuff that happens in our lives. And I want you to know that you don't have bad insecurities, you just have insecurities. Well, welcome to the human race. We all do. It doesn't make your insecurities bad. And your ending, where you said it didn't seem to work, I would really really consider, like, in fact, I would ask yourself, what does, what do I mean when I say it didn't seem to work? Like, what does that actually mean to you? And get curious about that question. And you know, I would just be just allow yourself to experience life and experience, you know, all these uncomfortable emotions, and not make them mean anything about who you are as, you know, a person. Because when we begin to identify with, you know, I have really bad insecurities, when we identify with that, we just feel so powerless. And I'm not in the business of making people feel powerless. You know, I want everyone to feel empowered. I want to feel empowered. And you know, I really hope that, you know, this hour that we've spent together, you've taken something away from it at the very least, and it's helped you reframe maybe who you are as a person, and at the very least your insecurities, and has left you feeling more connected to yourself and more connected to the human race and your loved ones and everything, just more connected in general. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. There's no questions, so yeah, hope that's helped, and I will speak to you soon.